Aloha. Today I wanted to kind of like jump off of what yesterday's topic was in relation to. Yesterday was more of like a political understanding of energy and power and how it affects an entire community, an entire psyche, an entire individual's projection and understanding of themselves, and move into sort of the generational understandings of how I see and have observed what what is being used or utilized to create the foundation of a distractive mentality and psyche to allow people to be more controlled. And I just broke it down. I was breaking it down. I don't want to make this video long at all because people can understand this and talk about it on their own. But I was really thinking about the whole Jeopardy. I was calling it the Jeopardy effect, and relating it to the Mandela effect and how we get our information and how we understand what our reality is like and what kind of what resources we have to that allow us to see our reality in certain ways. And like the generation before me, like my parents and like their whole thing, and a lot of them, my uncles and aunts, they had this time frame at the beginning, time frames of like video cassettes, VHS, game shows, TV shows. They were all like raised under that, just like you can see generation of today was like raised within the internet and the Google platform. So they all affect people the same way. And I was seeing at the generation before that, the format of control is basically, and even beyond those, generation before that was religion, and did the different styles of religion, and how people perceive their reality was all based upon a religious perspective, a God-fearing, whether it's Catholic, Christian, just all of the energy nodes that were in a person's understanding of their reality. Generations before the television and before the generation right before mine were heavily vested in the religious. The decisions were made on a religious basis. So when you have people who are shrunk down into a space of being controlled by their ideas of, a higher being based upon channeling that information through a book or through a religion or through a preacher or whatever it is, a pastor or whatever it is, those are different layers of how we give our energy away, because some people are within the religious, within the church. Some people are actually worshiping their pastor, and then within the church, some people worship the Bible. Within the church, some people worship Christianity itself and being Christian. And then within the church, there are some people who worship Jesus Christ, or the idea of some kind of individual. So there's these sections of energy that people focus on, and people live their entire lives who really just like give it all up either to the pastor or the church or the person they're worshiping, or the energy source they're worshiping, or even just the book, and they kind of just leave it there and then that's it. But what I was seeing is that as that sort of, just like the mainstream media is kind of imploding on itself, or definitely imploding on itself, religion is sort of doing the same way, at least how we perceive religion. It's shifting into another gear of connection with what's beyond this space, what's beyond this body. And we're having these understandings of things from more information flow, more more outlets, more people speaking on the issues, and more resources. And one of the main resources, like of this generation, is the internet. The generation before us was like the television, the beginnings of the television. When I was in high school, the internet was just getting up. It was before Google even jumped off. And it was still kind of in that transition point from television, and like it was moving from CD players, from the VHS CD players into DVDs, into the internet. So before that, everybody was getting their information from the television. Before that, everybody was getting their information from the radio. Before that, everybody's getting their information at the same time. The transition from the radio, from the church, was still like heavily involved in people's interactions with each other, and so on and so forth. Before that, it was all religion. Everybody was just all about, do your job and go to church, and in the like 1900s, before that. And I just wanted to understand, like, even more, expand upon how the Mandela effect is also being is shifting along with how we are perceiving our reality, and the so-called powers that be are adjusting these frames of thought, these manipulative concepts or whatever, to kind of work with it. And I don't think they're mutually exclusive. The sort of the political puppeteering that goes on, and the way we're perceiving our reality, that's observing things that are completely different, and having groups of people think this way and groups of people think this way, and how it was and large groups of people think that way. And how I was seeing it was, personally, it was like, okay, well, see, like my grandfather, he was all about, he's an old school Mexican, so he was all about religion. He was straight up, he just went there Sunday. Towards his later years, he was starting to ask more questions and understand more things from his grandkids, and other questions. Read different books mainly, because he used to only really read westerns. That was it. That was his like main thing. He was just like real old school, and he did that. But he started to read different books that started to ask different questions and share different things, and so that was his kind of transition. And then I was understanding that connection, his connection to a higher, the Most High, whatever his idea of that space was, and it was very channeled through the Catholic perspective. And then his generation after his, which is like my parents and aunts and uncles, they have this kind of separation from that, and it's really like a gap in that connection, because they were just like, I don't want to be like my parents. It was the end of that religious kind of like connection to whatever. And there are some people who went into like different styles of religion, or different outlets, like went into Hinduism or Buddhism, or did these different outlets to understand themselves. And then there's a large group of people who just stuck into work, and were just like, I'm just going to go to work, and then be about my business, and then take care of my kids and do what I need to do within this little system, and then that'll be it. And some of them voted, and some of them didn't vote, and it didn't really matter, because they just needed to take care of what they needed to take care of, which is a large group of people who think and feel that way. And what happens is that there's a gap there, and there's no longer any connection with anything that is of a higher space, because they've really kind of become comfortable in that that ignorant state of being, to where they no longer even ask any questions about what a higher space is, or what that would mean. And on top of that, get kind of like so bombarded with the reality that is being placed with front of us, the commercialism, the materialistic world, the jobs, the industries of all this, the military industrial complex, and just making it, pretty much just make it. So that in that transition point, there was like LSD pumped in the 60s in San Francisco. There was a crack epidemic pumped in all over the country, but mainly in the Bay Area and Oakland. So there was these gap fillers during these transition points, like after the civil rights movement. And then at the same time, television was moving in with like the middle class state of mind, and like having all the TV dinners, and just creating this fabricated sort of existence getting further and further away from the generation before them, and even what they kind of understood as, any kind of higher connection, and really kind of bulking up the installation of being a part of this reality and being like, oh, I'm this and I'm that, and creating a space of knowingness that's based upon information that has been fabricated. So this goes back to fabricated to control within a system. So this goes back to what I was saying earlier about the Jeopardy effect and the Mandela effect. But I'll go into the Jeopardy effect. Is that kind of like that hustle mentality, that quick, I got all the answers, I can talk about anything, da 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 da. Yeah, that whole feeling of interaction in a world that is still within a box, and then that gets passed down to another generation. That frame of thought, that sort of I can do this and I can do that and I can talk about this and all this other stuff, when really, since that exists within a box, you're really not talking about anything. There's no depth of connection there. There's no quality there. It's all about the quantity, like how fast you can have this answer, how many questions can you answer in like the Jeopardy game to get the most money. And then when you constantly invest yourself into that reality, you lock in those roots into that reality, you definitely separate yourself from other people and other concepts of reality. And actually, the main process is building up the ego self, the ego perception, perceived reality that can be easily triggered and manipulated with external forces, such as the little things that get changed within the things people are talking about with the Mandela effect. So if there's an intelligence that's also manipulating that chessboard game, along with the natural adjustment of us perceiving our realities and shifting this space, this entire space, then you can see how the Jeopardy kind of concept is just like another gap filler, just like the crack epidemic and all the other gap fillers that are within this reality. And so the generation right before mine is heavily vested in the gap filler so much that it's now become the persona. It's now become the individual, and now that generation is now teaching the next generation how to be a gap filler understanding and have these shallow connections with their reality and with each other. And the technological installation of this whole process is just another gap filler to allow that to remain more relevant in the human experience and actually be understood as human evolution. But it's not. It's an idea. All of it's an idea. All of it exists in a box. And when you expand all of it out into like the education system and politics, and don't separate them, understand that it's all together. It's all on purpose. It all affects each other and each other. Each frame of thought, each being. We're really in kind of a space that is splitting, and the old school generation could lean on religion, as jacked up as a lot of the religions are, and how they're manipulated to control and make people. At least they could lean on that, like the generation before the last generation, and now the last generation right before me, they're building on the artificial beginnings, which is the television, the video cassettes, the movies, the Jeopardy game show kind of network for the mind. And the next generation after that is the internet generation, and the next generation after that is what we make it. But right now it's being manipulated to be in sort of this technological merging of the human and the technology to be the next evolutionary step. And it's very important to see how that world, how those spaces are being manipulated, to think, to feel a certain way, and to control people in a certain way. And yeah, I just really wanted to kind of expand that space and really kind of blend in the Mandela effect with the separation that goes along with these gaps that get created. And there's something there with having people so separated from themselves that artificial realities can be installed right under our noses and we won't even know it. And it's only getting more and more in people's faces and in people's realities, especially when we have nothing to lean on, when we have nothing to tap into that is beyond our own, physical representations and our own egos and our own ideas of ourselves. So I'll leave it there until next time. Peace, love, and harmony.